What's up, everybody? This is Travis, also known as TI Trading Wiz. Today, I just want to go over the Moneyball and going over the settings. So if you want to add Moneyball to your chart, you're going to go click on indicators, go to your invite only tab section, and you're going to scroll down until you see the one that says QuantVue Moneyball V2. And you're going to go ahead and click on that. All right, so before we jump into the Moneyball settings, I want to go over kind of what the Moneyball is, because a lot of people are just going to think that it's an oscillator, it's a simple RSI. It's not. It's actually pretty complex in the back end and the code and the kind of the formulas that are used in the behind the scenes to identify chop zones like this right here, and then basically, I don't want to say predict, but it's looking for very specific price movements and basically price action, and then a push out of that. And that's kind of what the Moneyball is looking for. So it's a little bit more complex than just like an RSI or a normal oscillator. There's a lot of stuff that's in that code that kind of helps do something that's very unique to the Moneyball. Now, I want to go over kind of what indicators are and before we jump into the settings. So it's like really indicators, you really come down to measuring or combining two things, which is going to be momentum, right, and levels. So on the basic idea of what an indicator is let's just say it's a mathematical formula to plot a level at a previous high, right? And then once we come back up to that level, and then you can say what's the percent of like predicting that. And so there's a lot of math that can go into this, right? You can say, well, if there's over 50 bars in between this level and this level, what's the probability, historical probability of it going through that level? And then you can basically build an indicator out on that. Moving averages is also just a formula that's pretty simple, but then you can start to add stuff like the decay values, and add into like different things into moving averages to make them a little bit more complex. And then on the extreme end, it's like you can then start to add price action movement. So, you know, you can start to add not just like momentum based stuff and level stuff, but then you're combining kind of both of them. For example, moving average is kind of a way of measuring momentum, but then you can also use the moving average as a level itself to then take orders off of. So once you start to get into more complex scripts, right? Like I have scripts that are, for example, 1600 lines of code, and people will look at the indicator and think that, oh, that's a fairly simple indicator. And not knowing on the back end, it's using arrays and using a bunch of mathematical formulas, looking for very specific things. So that's kind of what I wanted to just touch on about the Moneyball, is that it's not a very simple indicator like people think it is. There's actually a lot of math that's going on in the back end to kind of help out predict these certain things. And I don't want to go exactly into all the secrets behind what the Moneyball is and how it's made, but I want people to know that it's just not as simple as people think it is. And so let's just go ahead and jump right into the Moneyball settings now. Now, the Moneyball settings are pretty simple, right? There's not a lot here, and a lot of this isn't made for users to change. For example, mode, you're pretty much always going to leave this on M. The only reason why you would use M1 or M2 is if you're, trying to, we basically use M1 and M2 to kind of test stuff on the back end. So it's not something that we've made for the users, and you're always going to leave all 0 checked. And so the only thing that you're going to change is going to be number of bars between signals, which is just going to change the minimum amount of bars needed to print a bull or a bear signal, which are these diamonds here. Again, mode, you're always going to leave on M. So next you have the period. The period is just going to be kind of the sensitivity of the Moneyball. 99% of the time, you're going to keep it between 4 and 8. If you go above 8 and you go, anything from like 8 to like 18 or 8 to 20, it's going to turn it into more of a trend bias tool. And I'll show you that here on the bottom, because that's actually kind of what I have set on the bottom Moneyball here. 90% of the time, you're going to keep it between 4 and 8. I'm going to keep it on 5 on NQ. Now, If you go lower than 4, just know that it's going to have like really, really fast flips, and borderline can be useless, and it might be useful to go down to like 1, 2, or 3 if you're using like a higher time frame, or something along those lines, like where you're trying to look out at maybe a day chart or a 4-hour chart, 15-minute charts. You might want to then play around with the sensitivity a little bit lower. But if you're using it for intraday scalping on pretty much any instruments, 90% of the time you're going to keep this number between 4 and 8, and you're going to just adjust it based off of kind of what you're seeing on the chart. All 0, always leave that checked. That will never change. Upper threshold and lower threshold, this is this green and red line right here. Once the Moneyball closes and crosses over, this is what ultimately will print a bull or a bear signal. And so you can adjust this. I would pretty much say you want to stay between 0.3 and I would say 4 or 5 on the highest end. And this also has to do with, the sensitivity and what you're trading. Now, the last thing is going to be the reactivity. And long story short, this is just going to be micro adjustments. So think about the period as being the main adjustment, and these are kind of going to just be like a fine-tuned micro adjustment. And I would suggest, maybe only going up maybe 0.2, 0.3. Let's see. I think at like 0.4 and 0.5 is where it starts to move the signals. Yeah, so you see 0.5 right here. If I go back to 0.1, you'll see, look at where this diamond actually prints. And if we go up to 0.5 here, you'll see that it prints a couple bars earlier. And so it helps if you want to take quicker scalps. If you're looking for smaller moves for scalps, adjusting the reactivity is going to help you identify those smaller movements. Now, there is a lot of things you can do. Something else that I've seen people do, and something else that you can do, is going to be adding a Huel moving average to it. And you can do this just by going in the indicators. Actually, I'll go ahead and reapply this Huel moving average so you can see me just do it in real time. First, you're going to go up to indicators. You're going to type on Huel moving average, and it should be the very first thing that shows up in TradingView. Once you click it and it's applied to your chart, it's going to show up on the top of the chart, right? But we want it on the Moneyball down here. So you're going to click these 3 dots. You're going to go down to move to, and you're going to go existing pane below. This will move it to this, but you can kind of see it's just overlaying on top of it. It's not really interacting with it. And so what you want to do is go into settings, go into source, and instead of having the source as the close of the candlesticks up here, you're going to go and scroll until you see Moneyball V2.0 BO. And you're going to go ahead and click that. And now you can see that it's kind of moving with the Moneyball. Now what you can do over here is let's go ahead and change the color to yellow so we can see it. All right, so now we can see it overlaying on top of the Moneyball. And the last thing that we want to do is kind of change the length to maybe something a little longer, like 14 here. And so now what you can do is you can use the Huel moving average kind of as a scalping tool. And so the simple idea is that as soon as we get a small move off of one of these, so let's say right here, right after it drops down from this point, this one level right here, that first tick where it drops down, that would be your entry. And then you're going to target like a nice 2-to-1, nice 3-to-1. So I'm just going to go ahead and go up to the chart because it's literally that bar right there. We're going to kind of just show you what that would look like. It would be this bar right here. And so, target a nice 2-to-1. We're just going to make the stop the top of those wicks right there, which is a 20, that stops a 21 point stop, so then you target like a 50. That would be one way of doing it. I like to even go tighter than that, like with that type of style. So I would say a maximum of 10 and then target maybe 20 points. So very, very tight moves. Now, there are other things that you could do. Instead of having just a 2-to-1, say you just want to target the bottom band, right? So now you can have a tight move and target the bottom band. Now that's looking like a nice 3-to-1. And you're just doing it off the heel moving average. Now, this is a very, very nice way to scalp. I very, very much like scalping off the Moneyball with the heel moving average, and you can adjust and play with the settings. This works, I think, really great on NQ. And again, as long as you want to keep your winners bigger than your losers, right? Which will help you, because, you know, if you have 3-to-1s and, you know, you can have a win rate that's under 50%, and you can still be profitable because your winners are bigger than your losers. The other thing that's nice about this style of scalping is it kind of gives you a real indicator that you can look at, and as soon as we close on one of these, as soon as you see that move down, right, you know, hey, I can go ahead and take this entry. It gives you a really, real time, indicator to do some scalping with. And I've actually found it very, very powerful, very useful. And the other thing that I wanted to go over would be using 2 money balls. And so this is kind of, you can see on this money ball, you can see I have the period turned up to 18. I have the upper and lower thresholds kind of a little bit different. And the reactivity is kind of set to 0.1. But you can see that this is acting more of a trend bias tool. If I zoom out here on the chart, you can see that like we're start to become in an uptrend right around here, right after we're coming out of these 3 bottoms. And this was a great, nice big trade. And the other thing is, like, let's just say you once we are like coming out of this, right? Once you start to look for longs, look, you could see you could get in, right? Let's just say we have this nice little bounce and we have this nice flip up. This would be a great entry, right? We kind of wick this, we bounce off of it, we're above the midline now, and we're flipping on the money ball, and the overall trend bias is bullish. That's a huge move. That was a 100-point move. And let's just say you wanted to put your stop right under these lows. That's a nice like 5-to-1 big push out. If you wanted to just target the high of the band there, that would still be about a 40-point move with about a 20-point stop. So that's still a nice 2-to-1. If we're already pegged out on the top band, I probably wouldn't take that move. But this is kind of a way to use both money balls or 2 money balls at the same time to kind of identify areas that you might want to trade. Now, I took this trade even earlier. I took this before it flipped on the money ball, and the money ball to me was just confirmation, actually, because what happened this morning is like this, we dropped right here, right? And you can see how this looks on the money ball, but I have this level marked out. This level wasn't just a weekly level that I had marked out on my chart. This level was also an order block level that I had marked out. This was also on my other chart. This was a fib level, right? So I had like 3 confluences that this was a strong level. We just touched the lower band, right? And we're oscillating, we're going up and down, we're chopping sideways on it. And so I entered relatively early on this move before seeing it on the money ball. And I wanted to bring that up because people think that, you can just take trades off of one indicator, right? You're just going to take the trades off the money ball, just going to take the trades off the Q band. But that's not always the case. This is a good tool to use in conjunction with everything else. But when you were coming into a known pivot level, a known order block level, a known fib level, right? You have multiple confluences that this could be a level of support now, right? The money ball might not be the best indication then to take a short against a move, unless you have a big trend coming down. Like we would say this whole morning, right? We're trending up. this could just be a pullback on this initial move overnight. This from 3 a.m. to let's see, this is like 304. Yeah, so this is 304. So this is London session. So we have this big move up and we pull back literally to the golden pocket, the 618. This is what I mean, that it was a pretty strong fib level. So we pulled back literally to the 618, right? And so there's a very, very high probability that we're going to bounce here and continue going up to the upside this morning. So it's important, even though you're using the Moneyball to scalp, to still know your levels, know your fibs, know the overall trend, know what it's done overnight during London session, know where the support was, because you can see this was resistance level right here at about 4 in the morning, and that ended up flipping to then become support. So you have multiple confluences that this level here is going to act as support, even though it's not printing on the Moneyball just yet. But the Moneyball is a fantastic tool. And you can see even on the Moneyball in that little area, you can see where it starts to, this is kind of what I call like a weakness, like you're oscillating on a level, right? And it's kind of goes to a bull signal, then comes back to a bear signal, and then comes back to a bull, and relatively early too. If you would have still capitalized on that first signal, right? That's a great entry. Even though it goes against the trend, it's okay to go against a trend again if you're coming into a like multiple confluence level, right, where you think there's a high probability of it pivoting, because those pivot moves a lot of times can be massive moves to the upside. So that's it for this video. Make sure you guys like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I highly encourage that you start to try out the Moneyball and post your results in the QuantVue Discord channel. Also post like some of your settings, and I can look over them on oil and ES and kind of give you guys my input, and just at me, and I'll be more than happy to do that. All right, see you guys soon. Bye.